Hello all and welcome to the Gavin Entertainment video. It's already with a new type of video. It's the Bond Days #2. It's the deep dive into Dr. No. This is not a review. This is a deep dive and analysis of Dr. No and why it is the template of all Bond movies. First of all, we kick it off with the entire structure of the behind-the-scenes people. Production designer Ken Adam, director Terrence Young. You have Monty Norman and John Barry on the score. You have Maurice Bender on the title sequences, and he would go on to do 18 or 19, I think 19 title sequences for the Bond movies. And you have Ken Adam, whose sets in the 14 Bond films he did were iconic, were amazing. Not to mention that you have Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli as the production company, the company that still owns it to this day, although it's moved on from Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli to Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, Albert's stepson and daughter. It is also Bob Simmons, the original stunt coordinator for the Bond films, who did several of them, was in it. The iconic gun barrel with the fisheye camera down the lens of a gun barrel showed its interest. The Maurice Bender title sequence was in its infancy here, and I would argue the predecessor or the progenitor to the pre-credit title sequences here. There is no pre-credit title sequence in this movie, but it's almost a genesis of it, because the first few opening acts before we see Sean Connery and the iconic Bond, James Bond, is almost a precursor to what would become the pre-credit title sequence. And this movie is also the only one that really doesn't have its own theme. You could argue the James Bond theme itself is Dr. No's theme. It's prevalent here all over the place. Editor Peter Hunt, who goes on to edit many films and directs some of the Bond films, puts it all over the place wherever he can. Lois Maxwell and Bernard Lee make their first appearance, along with Sean Connery making his first appearance. Sean Connery is by far the most quintessential and the most iconic James Bond. He is James Bond. All other actors in some way did their own derivative to the character, but the template, the master draft was laid down by Sean Connery. Dr. No, being an hour and 50 minutes, is one of the shorter Bond films. It is succinctly paced. There are rough cuts in the opening sequence, making the action move and making the movie keep its pace. Ursula Andrews and Joseph Wiseman also star in the film, and a young Jack Lord before Hawaii Five-0 stars in the film, as well as famed CIA agent Felix Leiter. Quirrell is also in the film, so they take a lot of what is in the Fleming novel and put it right in the movie. They basically adapt the Fleming novel as best they can to the cinematic screen. So, and Sylvia Trench is there. You'll see Sylvia Trench in a lot of the, well, she's the only Bond girl you see in this film that goes on to have a role in From Russia with Love. She has a role in, and I think that's it. But she's the only one we actually see him, with the exception later, as we know of Madeline Swan, she's the only one we see him have a continued relationship with. We see a more rough-cut 007. We do meet the armorer who's named Major Boothroyd, who would later become the character Q, played by Desmond Llewellyn for so many films. We'll get into Desmond Llewellyn when we first see him in From Russia with Love, and I'm sure we'll deep dive into his character's growth and interactions with 007 as this series goes on. But Dr. No itself is a quintessential problem that Bond needs to solve. It's action-packed. It's beat for beat, base for base. There are some things that are missing in Dr. No that would become staples in the series after Dr. No, like for instance, a pre-credit title sequence, the Q scene, the Bond theme, the titular title theme, all start with From Russia with Love. But that being said, it does have the iconic scene in the casino where he says Bond, James Bond. But that being said, it is not my favorite Connery film. That being said, it is the template for all Bond films. It laid the groundwork for the franchise we now know and love. It laid a foundation for a cinematic empire. It is, if you've never seen it, I recommend you watch it, because Terrence Young directed this movie, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball. Those were the 3 Bond movies he directed, but he is credited with the Bond direction style, and that is because he filmed the brutal nature, the dark nature, the espionage, the sophistication, the suaveness of James Bond, everything, the gritty brutalness of the action scenes, he's part of that. The shock and awe of the explosions, he's part of that. Bond's sophistication, knowing Japanese, knowing good wine, the Dom Perignon 55, knowing all that, and having class in the face of danger. That's all a Terrence Young invention that he infused with the character, and has become nomenclature with the character now. It's become the norm. And it's very, very, very important. Ursula Andrews and the iconic water scene of her coming up out of the water, which I'm sure in her day, because she was gorgeous for her day, I'm sure made teenage boys' hearts go pitter-patter. And she set the template and what it meant to be a Bond girl. She was a little bit more damsel in distress than what we're used to nowadays, but you got to remember, this film was released in the fall of 1962 in the UK and in the spring of 63 in the US. So you have to remember, like, the Bond films represent the era they were filmed in. As we get closer to modern day, they'll have more modern leanings. Even some I don't like them, I'll point them out as we go on the list. But Dr. No is the essential machismo 007 template of a movie. It's the essential wherewithal of the movie. And I'm sure if you've seen it, which I'm hoping that if you've seen it, you're agreeing with me, and I'm hoping that if you haven't seen it, you're not watching this video, because you'll see on the title, spoilers ahead. I will not, this is not like my normal review. This will be spoilers abound. This movie is 60 years old. So, if you haven't seen it yet, that's on you. But even with me spoiling a little bit of it, with the invention of the dragon, the use of miniatures, the special effects, the stuntman Bob Simmons and the stunts, and just the greatness. I watched this the other day in order to do the review, or the deep dive, I should say. And for me, it still stands the test of time. All the Bond films stand the test of time. There are some that are clunkers, but Dr. No is not a clunker. You can see the foundation. You know what you're getting. It's nice. It's a quick hitter. It's your summer, late fall action film. And that's what Dr. No is. And that's what James Bond is. And Dr. No is the foundation of that. I also thought that the Host fella was good. The music was on point for the time. I still every now and then listen to the song Jump Up, and I do have on one of my Bond CD collections of the song Underneath the Mango Tree. So I have all that, and I still listen to those because every Bond soundtrack leads to its own identity, and Ken Adams' sets are perfect here. The breadth and the expansion of the nuclear reaction site at the end, and the miniature that they blow up that is Dr. No's base is there. 007's humor and dry British humor is all there. The set with the empty concrete and the dome light with the grate above, where Professor Dent goes and talks to Dr. No and gets the spider that threatens 007, is just breathtaking for the time. And they're still breathtaking now, because it's, if you look back and see the limited things they had, limited technology had, and the breadth of what they did, it's simply amazing. Joseph Wiseman adds a lot of sinisterness, but a lot of class to Dr. No, and makes the character pop off the screen, even though Dr. No's only in about the third of the film, because they're chasing the identity of Dr. No through 2/3 of the film. I will say the ending is a little bit anticlimactic, but again, it was the template for what would come. There are a lot of scenes that are awesome, like when he beats up the driver that tries to kidnap him, and the chase scene where he avoids the car that's trying to kill him, and the car blows up. Still don't know how it blew up, because it just rolled down a mountain and blew up. I'm like, okay, whatever. But his one-liner quips were there. Everything is there. The Bond theme is so prevalent. Anytime he does anything Bond-like, the Bond theme is present here, is in the forefront. In later films, it would be in the back, but in Dr. No, because we're talking about the template again, it's in the forefront. Dr. No, for me, is the quintessential Bond film. I'm not going to give it a score, because this is not a review. This is a deep dive analysis, but it's a film that every time I rewatch all 25 now Bond films, Dr. No is always where I begin, and I always begin on a happy note, because the film, although it may be shorter than most of your later Bond films, it is quintessentially Bond. It is amazing. Jack Lord does a wonderful job. He talks about Savile Row. It's just simply amazing. But that, guys, is your Bond Days number 2 deep dive. Look for Bond Days number 3 next Tuesday. Our Bond Days number 3 next Tuesday, which will be the From Russia with Love deep dive. We'll get into what makes that film one of my favorite Sean Connery films next week. So, until then, you know I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Central, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more, please ding the notification bell to be notified when I upload a video. And without further ado, it's for your eyes only, 007. I'll see you again soon. And peace.